All right. Our next talk is by Caroline Lawrenson, and this talk will explore the importance of building an inclusive voice technology community here in Scotland and what the benefits of such a community can bring. I've definitely had the pleasure of experiencing community through this organization this week, so it'll be great to see what it means to bring that to Scotland. Caroline will discuss the current uptake of voice technology in Scotland and the opportunities that can be realized for its citizens along with its culture. We'll be talking about an inclusive community and providing current examples of initiatives in Scotland with the ultimate goal to be to inspire and empower you all to take action in your own communities that you can take back with you whenever you return. So with that, we'll begin with Caroline.
Awesome, good morning. So I wanted to start with a recommendation. So as a Scottish person, one of my favourite treats, which I recommend you go and purchase, is a Tunnocks caramel wafer. If you haven't had them, honestly, they are delicious. They are my favourite thing in the world. So yeah, that is my gift to you, is go and see if you can seek out some Tunnocks caramel wafers. So I run a smart home technology company called TL Tech. And when we started the business in 2016, we saw ourselves as the plumbers of the smart home world. But what we quickly realized is that the people that can benefit from these technologies the most are actually the least likely to be able to access them. So we love transforming people's lives with technology. But then along came COVID-19, and we couldn't go to people's houses anymore. So we started to help people remotely, and we created lots of free resources, including running live tutorials on Facebook, teaching people about Amazon Alexa and how to use it to keep in touch with loved ones. So we focused on the Amazon Alexa smart speakers because of all of the tools in the smart home toolbox. The voice assistant is by far the most powerful, and it offers amazing functionality at a really reasonable price point. And it was around this time that we decided to explore creating our own voice applications as another way to help people. We knew that our customers would be experiencing loneliness, stress, and anxiety, and so we decided on creating a daily conversation that would help them to feel supported and also help them to be more aware about changes in their well-being. And in 2020, we launched KindSpace, and now we are working on other voice applications as well as our smart home services. So in this presentation, I'm going to share with you some examples, like KindSpace, where voice projects in Scotland have addressed societal and community needs. And my hope is that we can build a community of people working in voice here in Scotland, and that we can share learnings and share all the amazing ways that voice can benefit people even more. So just briefly, a little bit more about KindSpace. So KindSpace is a holistic wellbeing voice application. It brings a little joy to lives. It has a daily check-in, a tips library, and audio interactive experiences like journaling prompts and breathing exercises. And this is all without the distraction of a smartphone, and it's designed to be accessible as well. So as it happens, this week I've had a very busy week. We have just completed a clinical research trial. Literally yesterday morning, I was running the focus group for it, and we've been looking specifically at whether KindSpace can help to reduce feelings of loneliness and feelings of worry. And the results have been very encouraging. I have a lot of work to do analysing the data, but I'm really excited to share that over the coming months. So as a little bit of context, a little bit about what people in Scotland use their smart speakers for. So here's some data for you from Ofcom, and this is interesting. I didn't realise the number had gotten as high as this actually. 43% of people in Scotland, or adults in Scotland, have a smart speaker. And as we knew, the Amazon was the most popular, but I didn't know as well. As high as 87% of people have the Amazon version, and only 9% own the Google version. And then the other statistic that I also found really, really interesting is that of all the time that people spend listening to digital media, 10% of that is actually through the smart speaker voice assistant devices. In our own consumer research, the research that we've been doing this year, we found out that overwhelmingly the most popular use cases are, in fact, listening to music, and then the second most popular is setting timers and alarms. Our focus group was very interesting because a lot of people said that they didn't even realize you could get apps for voice assistants, and they really enjoyed being part of the trial and learning more about what voice assistants can do. And we also discovered that 15% of people in Scotland own more than one device. So people are becoming more interested in these devices, and they're purchasing them and putting them in multiple rooms to do multiple use cases across their homes. And then the other thing that we found, which was really interesting, is that in our test participants, the majority of them actually just had a basic smart speaker, so without a screen interface. So as designers, it's important for us to know that so that we can create a user experience that is as accessible as possible through just the voice interface. So I'm going to move on to talk about a few other projects that we've been working on, and then other ones within Scotland. So the Alice here is another project of ours. We have been working in collaboration with the Scottish Government-funded charity called the Health and Social Care Alliance. And what we've done here is created a voice-accessible support services directory, taking the existing directory that the charity has curated and making that voice accessible. This has actually been an amazing opportunity for us. So we received funding from Innovate UK, and we've been able to work really closely with citizens to co-design the experience and actually work with professionals across the health and social care sector. We're actually in the final stages of this project as well. We've still got some more work to do with testing and gathering feedback. But we're really excited, again, to share the results and more about the co-design process when we get to the end of the project in April. So, I think many of us probably take things for granted, like being able to read newspapers or magazines. And this project is a fantastic example of how you can make material accessible. And it's also been another community-led project. It was led by the British Wireless for the Blind Fund and the Talking News Federation, where they created an Alexa version of the Talking newspaper services. And this allows blind and partially sighted people to listen to their local newspapers. What's actually really beautiful about this is that all the newspaper articles are read and recorded by volunteers in local accents. Within Scotland, there's a lot of different regional variations of how we pronounce words, and in fact, the words that we use vary quite significantly. So I think this is a really lovely touch. Again, this project was funded by the Scottish Government, the National Lottery. The organisation that led this is actually called Q and Review, and they are based in a place called Bishop Briggs, which is just outside of Glasgow. They're a wonderful organisation. Definitely check them out. So the next example is one that we came across after we won a hackathon competition last year, which was funded by Interreg. So that's an EU organisation, and the competition was called IT for Anxiety. As part of that programme, we've got to know a lot of other startups in the mental health space, and we've also been receiving support from Ulster University and the National Health Service here in Scotland. And one of the other projects on that Interreg programme is called ChatPal. So you can see here, ChatPal is a European project. It spans across a number of different countries and a number of different partner organisations. And what it's really focused on is supporting people in rural areas, because people in rural areas, they face many barriers when it comes to accessing support. So this is a great example of creating something that has, it really incorporates the unique and diverse nuances of languages. It's multi-language, and it also incorporates the culture of each of the countries as well. Mental health chatbots, there is a bit of controversy when it comes to, whether that's acceptable in the eyes of the public. So it's also looked at those sorts of areas, and it's done a lot of work, obviously co-designing and understanding with the individuals how they benefit from them, what their preferences are, and I think it's another really great example of co-design and looking specifically at ensuring that the user is brought on that journey with us, so that we're not making something that they don't feel comfortable using at the end of the day. So there's some links here. Definitely check it out. Because it's a funded project, a lot of the stuff is open source, so you can go in and you can see the conversational design, all the intents and all that good stuff. So definitely check that one out. Cool. So my next example is Ron, and Ron is amazing. So for me, there's nothing more powerful than people with lived experience sharing their stories and knowledge so that others can benefit. And Ron, he's an amazing individual, so he's Scottish, and he's taken his experiences of living with dementia and diabetes to help other people learn how they could also use Alexa to support them to live independently. There's a really nice video here where you can find out more about Ron and his work. There's also some links as well. So he runs an organisation called Deepness Dementia Media, and he has lots of resources. He's created these resources for others to use, and I think it makes it all the more powerful because he's had that lived experience. So I hope that you can see from these few examples that Scotland is embracing voice technology and putting co-design and citizens at the heart of the solutions so that we can create real and meaningful impact. But what I'd really like to see, and what I'm really hoping from today, and honestly thank you to Sydney for allowing me to speak and to meet you all, is that in Scotland we really grow a community here where we can share learning and we can look at these sorts of projects that have real impact and work on these sorts of collaborations together. If this is something that interests you, or if you'd like to know anything else about the projects that I've talked about and that I've mentioned, please do get in touch. I live on LinkedIn, it's my favourite platform. And yes, if anyone has any questions, then I guess we could take some questions if we have time.
We have lots of time for questions, so please feel free to pick Caroline's brain.
Or you can all run away to lunch. Don't forget your caramel wafer.
Hi, thank you. That was a really good talk. You talked a lot about using voice technology as the solution. How do you go about identifying the problems? What's most pertinent, and where can you make the most impact using voice technology solutions?
That's a good question. So for us, we had experience of working with customers through the smart home business, so going into their homes and helping them, and the way we operate, we don't have any standard packages when it comes to our smart home technology, and every project was different, and it's not the way to scale a business, I would add. So what we do in our smart home business is very bespoke, and it's very individual centric. And before the pandemic and today, if we have a new customer, a lot of what we do in the first instance is ask them, what's the thing that you would love to be able to do? What are the issues that you're facing? And quite often it's really simple things like they just want to be able to make themselves a cup of tea. And there's the thing about voice that I find really exciting is that there are so many use cases that we haven't even discovered yet, and we will discover them by having those sorts of conversations. That the work that we've done so far in the voice space with Kind Space was initially focused on, thinking about our customers and realizing, well, if we couldn't visit them and they weren't able to see their families, what could we do to help? And then the work that we've been doing more recently with the Alliance came about with a random conversation. I was speaking to the team there after I had been to an event, and I said, wouldn't it be amazing if Alice could talk? And they were like, yeah, it would be amazing if Alice could talk. And then we managed to get funding. But yeah, I think these sorts of use cases need to be explored more.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. So can you explain to us a little bit about what is the process like of incorporating such technology in some of the public sectors that you work with, and any sort of unique challenges and solutions that you found in that process?
Yeah, so at the moment we have one project under our belt, which is the Alice interface. I think maybe I'll reflect on my background. So I won't ask people to guess what I'm actually trained in. So I'm a chemical engineer by background. I am not a linguist. I am not any of these things. And I guess what I have seen is that delivering these sorts of projects is challenging because the pace that we can go at with technology is completely different from the pace within these organizations. So something like a national charity, they have lots of different aspects that they are focusing on every day, and they may be more familiar with technologies like websites and this kind of thing, and they kind of get used to a certain pace. But voice, I think, is amazing because you can really deliver things at quite rapid speed, whereas with the database side of things of Alice, it moves at a much slower pace. So we've, through our co-design work, identified a lot of improvements that need to be made to the database to improve the user experience. And the timescales are so misaligned with them updating the database. But that's just how it works. And I'm learning so much from these sorts of collaborative projects and trying to see how can we be as supportive as possible, when it comes to the way that we work, if that makes sense.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.